Hey guys, Jeeps here, and today we are going to be taking a look at Penny Arcade's On the Rain-Slick Precipice of Darkness, Episode 3. Now, this released this past Tuesday on Steam, and also as an Xbox Live indie game, and it is made by Zeboyd Games, which you may know from Cthulhu Saves the World and Breath of Death 7. They are well known for doing these very retro-style RPGs, though they did up the era a little bit when it came to Rain-Slick 3. They have been doing these 8-bit games, so this one is more 16-bit. To use a metric, which I'm just going to use this whole time, to old Final Fantasy games, because that's a pretty understandable one, think somewhere kind of between Mystic Quest and Final Fantasy VI. The environments and music are very Mystic Quest reminiscent. The character sprites are very much Final Fantasy VI, like almost exactly. Which is only a good thing, because that's one of the greatest games of all time ever in the history of the universe. Anyways, let us continue into the game itself. And first of all, as we get past this, I'm going to highlight a problem I have with this game just from a recording standpoint, admittedly. Notice how the volume just got louder. Anytime you go back to the menu, your audio options reset to the defaults, which are the loudest. So let's fix that, shall we? There's no sliders, there's just this. You can be quiet again. You can be quiet again. Save settings. Okay, sorry about that, but that is really frustrating. I actually already tried making this video once, not realizing the audio was going to reset as soon as I went from the title screen back to the menu. So you couldn't hear me at all at any point, pretty much, which I'm sure was a relief to some of you, but those are the ones I care about less. So anyways, moving right along, let's hop into a game, and I can give you a little of a lowdown on the mechanics stuff and what is different from the Hothead entries. I will do my best to avoid any sort of plot spoilers. That will come when we actually do a playthrough. Obviously, we're still a little ways off on our Rain-Slick playthrough before we get to Episode 3. However, I can at least give you a shakedown of what this game does. So we'll hit up Continue. Here's our save slot right here. Successfully loaded, and we are in. So, this is the world map. It actually is like Super Mario World. Exactly. Even the lines and the little green circles and stuff. You're gonna hear a lot of old SNES games and Genesis game callbacks here. And I think that's kind of actually a cool way of doing the world map. If you remember right, in Rain-Slick Episode 1 and 2, in the Hothead entries, you actually just went to a map screen and selected a location to go to. Now you have a world map area. So let's hop into the menu. I'm going to give you a lowdown of what is different and what is the same. Well, from the previous entries, not a lot is actually the same. It is very much a classic JRPG kind of format, but with not Hotheads. That was a mistake there. Zeboyd's signature twist. If you've played Breath of Death or Cthulhu Saves the World, you've known some of their mechanics I do. We'll get to these more when we get into a fight later on. I can highlight the combat mechanics a little better, but let's take a rundown. So you've got your status screen. This does exactly what you think. Shows your speed, shows your attack, defense, all that good stuff. But now we have more straight-up equipment. They are all great things, like even softer gloves for our good friend Gabriel, and you have accessories in addition. There's no armor. Weapons tend to give you attack and defense. Plus, you then also have these accessory slots, which I only have one. It's the magic, air quotes, ring, which increases your magic by a ridiculously small, almost insulting amount. It actually increases it by 20, which really isn't that bad. Brings us to our next point of there's actually magic in this game. There's not just the techniques, there are magic. You have magic attacks and basic attacks. And those all come from what is a very cool system in this. It has a class system. Sorry, back out one more time. Class system, that's what I wanted, yes. Now, this is somewhat reminiscent, again, to old Final Fantasy games, but as I said, Zeboyd has kind of put their own pretty cool twist on this. Now, every character has their own class. Gabriel is a brute, Tycho is a scholar, and Jim down here is a necromancer. I actually haven't used Jim yet, I just got him. He just replaced Anne Claire. If you remember right, Jim is the head in the jar that is sitting in the Startling Development's office. He is a party member, somehow. I don't know how. He's a head in a jar. A skull in a jar, in fact. That is an old Penny Arcade reference, and I love it. Anyways, but here is what's different. After you get through the, introductory level, I guess you could say, you unlock more classes. And these are slotted into a second class slot. So as you can see, I can switch out. Currently I have Gabe as a brute and a hobo. You start out with things like Tube Samurai, Crabomancer, which is actually the first boss in the game, is a Crabomancer, or Le Crabomancer, as they actually say in-game for some reason. Hobo, Gentleman, blah, 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 blah. The best one might be Slacker, which they imply does nothing until you level it up all the way. Now, this is a really cool mechanic. Many RPGs have done this class system before, but it's rare that you see every character have their own defined class, plus then there are secondary classes which you can shift around. That is a very cool take on it. Again, it's reminiscent of kind of taking two old Final Fantasy games and mashing them together. Let's use FF6 as an example again. Every character had their own specifically predefined class. There were very, very few characters that overlapped class-wise in that game. But then take something like Final Fantasy V, where you had the full class selection. This mashes that together into one beautiful concept, and it is actually pretty awesome. That's a really clever take on a very old, tried-and-true formula. Now, next thing they do, interestingly, is items. You don't just pick up potions and stuff like that, and they're not one-time use anymore. You pick up, like, a potion once. You find a potion in a chest. You now have potion as an item. You can upgrade or find items which will upgrade the number of uses per battle you get of the item. At the end of a battle, all your items refresh back to their full number of uses. Again, very cool mechanic. Cuts down on having to, go to the item shop and buy a billion potions. You do go to the item shop still in this game, but it's to buy upgrades for your items. So I can go and upgrade the effectiveness of my potions or buy additional uses for my potions. Again, very cool, interesting mechanic on a very old, tried-and-true formula. That is kind of the running theme I've seen behind Zeboyd's games, and this game is doing nothing to differentiate itself from that, which is a good thing. If anything, it's doing it even more so than their older games had. Maybe it's because they jumped to 16-bit. It's the superior number of bits, ladies and gentlemen. Anyways, didn't mean to go off the menu there. You also get a little recap, and this is kind of cool. This is like the case file section in the Hothead games. You get a recap of what the characters tend to think about what's going on right now. Like, instead of saying, we need to go to this museum, it tells us that Gabe thinks museums are dumb and that he hates them, but we still have to go. It then also tells us how much money we have, but tells us what we are likely to spend it on, which is kind of cool. That number, the what it is described, has gotten progressively better the higher amount of money I have. It used to be, God, I don't remember, it was like discount shoes at one point. Now it's on candy bars. I'm curious, though. Does that change every time we look at it? Yes, it does. Now we might spend it on our cats. Gabe does indeed want a cat. They came up earlier. Now, on one last note on the class system, if we run back to this building here, and wow, this is new. I don't know what this place is. We'll come back to that. If you go to here, this is I think it's the Shrine of the Seamstress or something like that. You can find out about the different classes. You can also see what most of them are. See, here is the statue for the Tube Samurai. It gives you a little bit of lore background of what it is, and gives you a vague idea of what it does, which in the case of the Tube Samurai is it gives you stances, which affect your damage output, defense, all that kind of good stuff. Cool mechanic, cool way to do it, giving this big little temple to run around in, and it gives you, again, more of that classic Penny Arcade writing and humor, while telling you what these new classes do. This is also where it implies that the Slacker class unlocks something super fancy if you keep going. And yes, to your right there, you do indeed see Pelican Bay. We did have to go back to that accursed boardwalk. I hate it. Over here is Anne Claire's house. It is a great place. And then you've got your item shops. Fun fact, all the item shops are run by Penny Arcade employees. Just as an example, go to the weapon store. The death dealer is Francisco Villaseñor, or Kiko. He is the... excuse me, the lead graphic designer for Penny Arcade. Buy weapons from him. Likewise, the equipment store is run by Erica, who is the other graphic designer for Penny Arcade. And then items are run by Brian, who I will admit I don't actually know who Brian is. I just know he works for Penny Arcade. I'm not sure what he does there, but I know that's what he does. Anyways, that is enough bungling around on the menu screen. I'm going to skip ahead now and get to a battle, so I can give you a little bit of a rundown of the battle mechanics, and then we can make a nice conclusion on this game. Alright guys, see you in a moment. Alright guys, and we are back. I decided to go check out that arena, because I figured it would be a good place to find a fight, and I was not mistaken. So here we have 6, count them 6, zombie sunflowers. I'm guessing that's a Plants vs. Zombies reference. That we have to severely murderate. Now this will also be my first time actually fighting with the new classes and with Jim, so this should be exciting. So, starts out, you press the enter key to fight. and if you see the bar at the top arranges everyone into initiative order. I'm assuming this is based on the speed rating and probably some sort of dice roll that goes into it. I don't know for sure, however. It's all handled under the hood, as you would expect. It's not like Hothead, where they actually did a more or less straight D20 roll to see who went first, which I'll admit was an awesome mechanic. Now, as you can see, Gabe is first in my party, as he has the fastest speed rating, and he is currently at the command step. As you can see, there's a bar that says wait, goes all the way down to command, and this shows you the order things will be happening in, and then past command is act. Anyone in the act step will do their actions as soon as they hit the end of the bar. Now, the bar advances every time you pick a command from this. It slides over to the next person, and it's an equal amount sliding down the way, which means that will also cause people who hit the end of the act bar to do their actions. Now, while it hasn't come up much yet, from what I understand, it will later become very, very important to use abilities that can juggle things around positioning on the bar. Delaying someone or speeding yourself up can be very, very important. As it stands right now, by hitting defend, you up your defense and give yourself a temporary speed boost, so you will move you up the bar slightly independently of your opponents. However, right now, we just want to kill some zombie sunflowers. So how can we do that? Well, we can do a basic attack, or we have our brute attacks. These are the attacks you get as the brute class. So these are Gabe's signature attacks. You have First Blood. This is a very weak damage attack. It does extra damage on the first turn. Fireball, it's what you might expect. It is light fire magic. And Brute Punch, which is a medium attack. Now, you can see we have MP over at the side, and currently Gabe is the only one who has any. MP works kind of in reverse of how it would work in a standard RPG. You don't have a big MP pool. Instead, you generate 1 MP a turn as the fight goes on. This number may change later on in the game, I don't know at the moment, but as it is right now, you generate 1 MP a turn. Which leads to the idea of, do you want to use some of your lighter magic attacks, which still may be better than your regular attack early on, or do you want to save up for bigger things? So like right now, I could use First Blood or Fireball, get a little extra damage in, or I could save up and use Brute Punch next turn, which might do more damage, as it is a heavier attack than either of these. However, there's also the chance that these might be weak to fire, at which point Fireball will do more damage, and now you're into your classic RPG planning. However, we can also use our newfound Hobo abilities. Let's see what we got here. Call of the Hobo is 1 MP and it inflicts Hoboism. By my understanding, Hoboism is pretty much poison. So this does no actual damage, but will poison an opponent. Definitely useful. Dots are always good. More dots, more dots. Okay, stop dots. And of course, we have our items, and we can defend. However, we're not going to defend. We are, in fact, going to just save up and do a regular attack. Now, yep, it is definitely a Plants vs. Zombies reference. They do, in fact, want zombies on the lawn. Now, as you highlight enemies, you do get to see how much HP they have and how much power they are at. This is a mechanic from many of Zeboyd's games, in that every turn, your opponents gain power. Next turn, they will be at, I believe, 110%, and so on and so forth. They will just simply do more damage the longer the fight goes on. So, this kind of evens out these big fights, because while you can drop some of the early ones pretty low without being much of a threat, later on, you're going to have 1 or 2 of these guys doing lots of damage to you, so you have to watch out for that. Also, as you highlight them, you can look up at the top there and see which enemy is the closest to the front in the command line. So you might want to go for the one that's most likely going to be attacking first. So that's what we're going to do, is back zombie sunflowers apparently first, so Gabe is going to punch him in his zombified sunflower face. But he acts first. Now, since Gabe has not reached the action bar, and no one else has yet, it has gone on to our next turn of command, because Tycho has now hit the command. So we're about to actually get hit pretty hard, because all of the zombie sunflowers are striking before us. This is no fun. Except for Gabe. Gabe does get to go before 5 of them, so that's pretty good. So again, Attack, Scholar, and Gentleman. I have not looked at Gentleman yet, so what do we have? Self-Starter. That's pretty good. He can heal and remove status ailments from himself. That is fantastic. But we don't want that. We want to do some good damage to everyone, so we're going to just take full auto. It does not do a lot of damage, but it hits everyone, so boom. Now, Jim. Jiminy Jim Jim. As far as I know, Jim only does magic damage. Let's take a look at his Necromaster abilities. You can heal and revive an ally. That's very good. He can do light earth magic, and he can do medium dark magic. So he's quite the caster, as you can see. However, let us save up for Dark Blast. Let's see what Tube Samurai does. We can switch into attack stance. I'm having a feeling Tube Samurai may be a bad bet for Jim, because I believe he mostly does magic damage. I just couldn't resist the silliness of the Skull in the Jar being a cardboard Tube Samurai. But we're just going to go ahead and attack as well. And again, we will go after... Let's just pick off this guy. Well, Gabe already picked him off. Now we get wailed on by these pitiful zombie sunflowers. Wow, they are not even a threat. Tycho just went full auto on their faces. And that was the best attack animation I have ever seen in my life. There's no reason to actually do what I'm about to do, but I'm going to brute punch one of these guys, because it's funny. That was such overkill. And we'll just full auto again, because that will finish them off. You can just attack again. And that's the combat. It's simple when you're against enemies this easy, but there's a surprising amount of depth in the way they handled the active time battle idea. In fact, it's not an active time battle anymore. They did a very interesting take on the turn-based battle, though, by putting in ways to change your positioning in the fight. It's actually a very tabletop RPG kind of take on it. I know some modern tabletop games do have ways of shifting around initiative orders and stuff like that. It's a very cool idea. I definitely appreciate it as a tabletop RPG fan, and being that this is based on Penny Arcade, I'm not surprised they threw a little bit of a tabletop edge in there, as while it is a video game webcomic, they do love their tabletop games. Alright guys, you've now gotten a decent feel for how this game works. Let's get our XP and stuff. Now, look at all our classes leveling up. Tube Samurai would leveled up to level 4, so did Crabomancer. Note that those were all level 1, so 36 experience just rocketed them up. And that's great. Now, as you can tell, your base class leveling up is effectively the character leveling up, and then you can also level up the additional classes, which gives them more abilities. Alright guys, that is Rain-Slick Precipice of Darkness Episode 3. Hope I avoided any major spoilers, other than I guess showing you the shopkeepers. We will get here eventually in our playthrough, and it will be crazy awesome. This game is fantastic so far. Not all that far into it, but it is scratching that retro RPG itch that I love so much to be scratched, while giving it Zeboyd's trademark really interesting twist on these old mechanics. That is it for now, my friends. As always, like, subscribe, share this video with your friends, leave a comment if you have anything to discuss. Also, if you would like to check us out on Facebook, we are facebook.com/atnetgaming, and if you would like to follow me on Twitter, is twitter.com/player2, and that's player_2. So player2 with an underscore in the middle of it. I think you can remember. It's written on the page. Alright guys, I have been Jeeps. I will talk to you guys later.